there, and welcome back to the worst Warmachine channel on the internet. I'm Malorian, and this is the season finale for my 2020 year of Malorian Weekly. And I gotta say, whether you're a person that likes Malorian or hates Malorian, this is the one for you because, well, if you like Malorian, well, what's wrong with you? And we're gonna have some fun. But if you don't like me, well, congratulations, you made it. It's the end of the season. I'm going to give you the rest of the year off. In the new year, we'll start up again, but this will be it for that. So if you're wondering why there's going to be no content in December, it's because I put out my at least 50 videos like I promised. And look, I get to have some time off as well. But enough of that. We don't care about that stuff, Malorian. Get on to the topic at hand. We saw it there in the thumbnail. Let's get to it because this is going to be a fun one. And what our topic is for this grand finale of the season is to do a 2020 year in review for Warmachine. Now, what this really means is we're going to look at all aspects of Warmachine and really just see how it was. Now, as many kind of guessed as I kind of put up the teaser for this video, it was in general bad, but it wasn't all bad, you know? So we're going to be touching this on a couple of different areas and then at the end talking about the future. But let's make sure you understand how we're going to break this down. We are going to be talking about the story of Warmachine, the models of Warmachine, the new rules, how game balance is, PP content coming out to us, fan content, and then finally that look into the future. So in each of these 7 areas, we're going to have a little chat about how things kind of went. I'll give it a letter grade because why not? That's an easier thing for you guys to disagree with me. Like, Malorian, of course it wasn't a B, it was a C+, obviously. So, I mean, you can always give me your thoughts and ratings down below, but that's how we're going to go through this. Now, as this is the finale, we're going to open up some good old Sambuca, Metal John, he has the Kraken, I had the Sambuca, put these together. It's awful. Never mix those two things together, but might as well in this Thanksgiving Day for the Americans and the regular apocalypse of the pandemic for everybody else. It's a good time for a drink, I'd say. All right. So with that, let's get into our very first one here, and it's going to be the story. So looking over 2020, how did the story go? Now, I think before we actually start any of this, we should really make sure we understand what is 2020. Time is interesting. When you talk to some people, they're like, oh yeah, this happened this year. A lot of it didn't. So we go back and see what was happening in January. We were actually already kind of getting into the Oblivion campaign. That was all kind of spoiled Q4 of 2019, and now we're really getting into the releases and the models and blah, blah, blah. So that was a really big thing. Like a lot of people, when you talk about like, oh yeah, in the last year, this happened and so many CIDs, they're looking too far back. We're only looking at this part here, 2020. And if you really go and think about it, anything that's going to be the releases of the Oblivion models and story forward, that's what's going to be covered with this. And I gotta say, as far as story goes, it was fantastic. Oh man, I mean, if I look back to previous years where, even the old days where we actually get books twice a year, one for a Warmachine side, one for a Horde side, or one per year, and you could go and be like, okay, here's this little bit of the story. The story was weak, The story is like, oh, by the way, yeah, there's this new Callus guy. This is talking about like Callus 1. And there'll be like a short little story talking about like how he basically dies and like reforms. And so not really like a story to progress the story, but a story to kind of better explain the character. So, I mean, they're really like, I remember a lot of things for me. I was remembering like older stuff. Like, oh, wasn't Karchev supposed to be captured by the Cricks and something's supposed to be happening there, but nothing really ever happened. Nothing really super developed. All of a sudden, here we get like hit in the face with the Oblivion campaign, and this is huge. This is all of a sudden like a huge cataclysm. You have to kind of remember, like, so you guys realize that like Morrow and Thamar made this deal, right? And now like the Infernals, they're going to come back and they're here for the souls. And like, this is bad because 2/3 of your souls are going to be kind of paid up and forfeit. And it's just this great idea huge thing. And in fact, it might have been actually too huge. You know, like one of the things a lot of people kind of like in this too is in fantasy when GW went and basically decided to kill their game and be like, let's do a big last final hurrah, where like all the big leaders that you used to love do into like this big battle and we're gonna kill everybody off. And yeah, we're still not actually confirmed whether that's true or not, but just the idea that they're gonna do this and the concept alone, right? Like this is the concept. Infernals are coming. These are who the Infernals are. These are the factions before that made the deal. They're gonna be fighting against it. If that was all it was, that would still be a pretty good thing for this last year, but they went even further than that. And I mean, where they went further was with the Henchhold scrolls. Holy crap. Like that was amazing. Like, you know, my gaming group, for the most part, gives zero shits about fluff. All we talk about 99% of the time is going to be competitive Warmachine, competitive Warmachine, competitive Warmachine. What's the best builds? Blah, 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 blah. You know, and there's almost never anything about fluff. When we were going through the Henchhold scrolls, where like every single day there was these series of tweets with little updates and like maddening visions from the Hermit about how the story was like a possible way of it going forward. That was so great, and like you were just like sucked in, like what's gonna happen today, and like even going from like one tweet to the next, like what's gonna happen, and as it builds up, where like different armies are coming in and fighting each other, and of course like as some of the characters did actually like start dying off, you're like, oh, is this that GW thing? But man, super fantastic, amazing. And I do have to do a little bit of a downway after, where after all this growth of the story, it kind of like stopped and that was it. But then again, as you're going to see in a theme through this, there was a thing called COVID and a pandemic, and so I can give them a pass on this. So I think this is a very clear-cut one to talk about, where, man, if they can be doing this more and more, where, you know, every year has this big campaign that there's actually a real story to, that's not just something just to introduce characters, and it's something that's actually progressing what's going on, and then it can come to a conclusion and move on, and you can, like these tweets, that was such a great idea, keep doing those. The grade here for 2020 for story has to be an A+. Even with like the second half of the year having basically no updates, that doesn't matter. It was so great in the first half of this year. This is an A+ grade for this, for story. And I really hope they do stuff like this going forward. All right, topic number 2, models. The new models coming out in 2020. And so, of course, we have all the Infernal stuff. We have all the new Morrowind things where they have like, you know, now I can't remember the name of those units, but you know, like the big boys with the big guns and like the front boys with like the crossbows and stuff. You know, the new Morrowind stuff that if you're rich, you'll have lots of. You know, all that stuff is amazing. The Archons that came out, the Gaspy 4, Asphyxius 4, the Nemo 4, you know, the big orb. Then they're coming out with all the different Riot Quest models, and they came out with things like Malvin and Mayhem and blah, blah, blah. All these models, I think a big thing that you saw as like a theme for the models for 2020, and I guess there's more than that as well. We can talk about the Legion stuff as well, and those coming out. But the main thing was just kind of like trying to really up the game. I know that whenever there's comparisons made out there between Privateer Press and GW, is that you just can't beat GW. GW is just amazing for models. But all of a sudden, here's Privateer Press putting out models that are gorgeous. In fact, a lot of the flack they took for some of those new Morrowind things, and Vigilantes or something, I don't use them. But anyway, the biggest negatives that they heard was like, oh, those look like GW models. Well, if GW models are amazing, well then thank you. And I mean, if you look at some of the things coming out though, with like the Archons, the Morrowind Archon, gorgeous. The Menite Archon, so good. The Dunian Archon, Okay, you can't all be winners. That's all right. But I mean, you have things like, with the mini crates and the riot quest. Those were a sprinkling of some interesting models. Quality wise, I would say that they're average, if not above average. So that's all great there. But I mean, really, when you're looking at how things were moving forward, seeing those spectacle things of like the Archons and stuff like that, or Aurora 2, that's where I really want to see things going, where it's like big and splashy and interesting. And we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to like new rules and stuff like that. But that seems the way that they want to go, right? They don't want to be releasing, hey, this is Trencher number 3, and I can sit on your shelf with the rest of them. They want to put out things that are going to be centerpieces. They want to be putting out very interesting models that are like, if you look at those like Infernal Masters for the Infernals, they're massive. Like if you just put them up there, like, they're going to stand out much like a Colossal would type thing. Those Archons, they stand out there. Gaspy 4 and Eminem, like, Melvin and Mayhem. Okay, they're a little bit small, but still, almost everything's supposed to be like a centerpiece and looking so amazing. And I really gotta say here that this is going to be a good year for them. I don't think it's going to be like an A+ for models. These things are all good, but I think this is like a solid B. This was just a really good year for models. Some of them, like the Legion stuff, didn't always look all that great, but hey, from my understanding, is because some of the sculptors were like, I don't want to work on this boring Legion stuff. I'm going to be dealing with this cool stuff. So yeah, I totally get that. So overall, things could always be better. There's always the next level you can go with that, but it was a really strong year for the models. Now, topic number 3, and we got to take a drink between every single topic. Topic number 3, new rules. So obviously, for all those things I put out there, they all had new rules. We also had some CIDs for some of the older stuff like Fiona and the Legion CID and blah, blah, blah. We got the dynamic update right now where all the all the battle box casters got updated. We're going to do this as a one take. We're not going to redo this. Too bad. We're going to do this all in one take. I can only crack the bottle once. But anyway, all those models came out, and I think, like I said before, where they want things to be flashy and interesting, I really feel that's what they were going for these as well. Everything was supposed to be pushing it. It's not supposed to be like, hey, now you got this infantry where they have a gun. No, that's going to be like rules and rules and rules and rules, and things are going to be very interesting and in depth, and there's going to be lots of ways you can go with these types of things. I mean, like Fiona alone. Fiona was good before, but she was limited in what she could do. They revamp her, and all of a sudden she's amazing. She's all over the place. It turns out that arc nodes and having any of your infantry being in arc nodes is really, really good. Or just like the Archons, the idea of Archons, the idea of these super juniors like Asphyxious 4 and Nemo 4, like these are such interesting, groundbreaking rules. Even some of the things like when you're looking at stuff like the Riot Quest stuff, right? All these Riot Quests are solos that are really pushing rules in one area or another and making things very interesting. You maybe didn't see that much Riot Quest actually hitting the board, but some of it, absolutely. Hell, even things like the Infernals, this new faction where now they're summoning in things, and now there's essence, and if I don't like fill them up, they're just gonna die. Or even things like the Hermit, where now like, hey, everybody's dying around me, and I'm gonna ignore that 1 damage though. Like, these things are so interesting and great in the way that they're going. So we're gonna be talking about balance after this, but as far as grading Warmachine for where they were going with this, I would almost go ahead and say like, hey, like this is fantastic that you're breaking all this new ground. However, I think that they did push it a little bit too far. One of the things that they want to do with this is that they said things like, okay, well, you're trying to fight the Infernals. Well, while that's happening, like everybody has to team up. So even like Moro and Thamar, they're supposed to hate each other. They're going to work together. Okay, yeah, we're all on board. Oh, what's that? Menite's still a jerk and they don't want to work with us? Whatever. Yeah, that's the way that Menite do. But who else can team up together? Well, what if we have a strange bedfellows and you're going to have Crix and Signar and Mercenary and Convergence all working together? I mean, it won't be a Crix theme, but you get all of them working together for everybody else. That was weird. That was maybe too weird. I don't know. It's one of those things that when it was first released, a lot of people looked at the rules for Strange Bedfellows and just said, what? And then they kind of looked at some of the lists you can make with like more Tenebra, and it was like, yeah, this is bad. And then they kind of like wrote it off. And then it was the people that really kind of like played on with it with like Aurora 1 and Aurora 2. They're like, oh, no. This is really good. Look right here. This is really good. And I don't really know. I can't tell you because, you know, PP doesn't chat with me because they hate me. But I don't know whether they intended Strange Bedfellows to be that strong, or if they actually just said, like, let's make something interesting and see what happens, and it turned out to be good. I have no idea. However, it is oppressively good. And I mean oppressively good in a way that if you don't understand what's happening, or even if you do understand what's happening, these angels or with Aurora 1 or 2 or in Gaspy, just like alpha strike you and either just kill your caster or kill your colossal and most of your force and jam you up, and it's kind of game over. It is actually probably bad for the game when it's played to that level. There's a lot of other builds in Strange Bedfellows which are completely fine, but when you dial it up to 11, you realize it's dialed up to 13 and it's gone too far. A lot of people also say that they went too far with things like Aphyxius 4 and Nemo 4. That when you look at them compared to their points are just a little bit way too good. Or things like the Archons where, you know, like they're 8 points, but I mean, they probably could be 8 to like 10 points type thing, right? And so what that does is that it definitely brings them to the table and it gets them played. However, that's where the people that will cry things like game balance and you're selling out and blah, 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 they're going to be latching on to that and they're going to really push it. And that is not good. Obviously, one of the things that they went too far on was things like Fiona. She was not as impressive as Strange Bedfellows, if you ask me. But then again, I'm a Merc player, so maybe there's some bias there. But she's really, really good. And so they had to scale her back and change Befuddle. But I think that really shows a lack of understanding. And maybe something that's not working is the CID process. Because I know, at least for Fiona, this was brought up. That like, this is too good. And it was ignored. When it comes to Strange Bedfellows, I actually can't remember whether it was brought up or not. I think the CID there might have just been like, this is so weird, I don't know. So that one I can give a pass on. But Fiona, people said like, this is not good. You can't do this. And they said, oh, well, go buy Fiona's. Did you know that there's a Fiona mini crate? You know, like that type of thing. So, you know, I don't want to be overly negative. I always like being positive. I'm more positive when I have drink. But with that, there's certainly spots where they're going too far. And I don't know if it's to the point that it really damaged the game. So we're going to be talking about that in a second. But as far as new rules go, I really have to say thumbs up to trying to go to new areas. That's good news, right? The fact that they're like pushing borders and like 5 years ago, if you would have said to somebody like, there's going to be a Nemo 4 and it's going to be a huge base and it's going to be actually an orb and a battle engine. And of course, they'll be like, what's a battle engine? But they're like, no, stick with me. And it's going to shoot like laser beams and have a unit and it can bring out a solo and have its own battle group. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, this is the interesting spaces they're getting into, and I love that. But, of course, whenever you're pushing things into one area, there's a worry you might push too far. So in this area, I'm going to give them a B. I still think this is a passing grade. I still want to give the props to Privateer Press. This is good. Let's go to game balance. Now, game balance... Oh, I got to do my in-topic. It's a good thing I haven't eaten yet today. Now, in game balance... This is something that's actually very hard to evaluate this year because normally the way that you'd be evaluating game balance is how games have been going. But COVID canceling a lot of things, we haven't seen major conventions for a long time. Thank goodness for War Table, and there's some of those things, but even then, those are sparse. It's not like before, where like almost every week there was like a new big tournament. You could follow the trends, see what's going well, and trying to follow. But you could kind of see in general where things were going, where they drop Infernals, and Infernals is bonkers. They're bringing in a new heavy every single turn. If you want to say to me, hey, you can trade a 4 or 5 point or 3 point solo and get a heavy, I'd be like, yeah, okay. And then you got things like Agathon and stuff like that. Zap, zap, zap. The problems that they had there with Fiona, the problems they had there with Strange Bedfellows. Wow. Gaspy 4 is just a real problem. Everything is basically Gaspy 4 or go home. Yeah, it is a crazy world. Now, is it bad? Is the meta actually bad? Now, it's really hard, again, because the thing's not being played through. All I can see is that in a lot of places, some certain things are dominant. You know, whenever you have Flame in the Darkness, it's going to be really good. The Strange Bedfellows is really good. Infernals is really good. You still have Menoth doing very well. And of course, all these sub-metas are different. But again, it's so hard because I can't get data. Games are not happening. But either way, I want to say that the changes that they made this year, if I say what the game balance was last year in 2019, and then where did they go to it, didn't make it better. So now we have Archons and all this other stuff. And I got to say, like, the big thing to say for a lot of these things is that Privateer Press hates infantry. And this is where I got to pour another drink, because Malorian loves his infantry. But you know what slaughters infantry? You know, Legion of Lost Souls, all the Archons, Gaspy. It's just really bad. Like, really bad. And now we're going to be having the Death Archon come out. Like, why do you even drop infantry anymore? So that's just bad. And like, I understand that Privateer Press wants to move the game more to its intention, where the intention was that you would have a Warcaster in a battle group and they're like, hey, Stompy Robots, punch. You know, I'm going to have a Blockader and a Stormwall. They're going to come to the front and they're going to punch each other until somebody dies. Well, okay, if that's what you want, I guess you can encourage Warjacks and discourage infantry. But man, it seems oppressive, and it seems like every Riot Quest model is anti-infantry. It's kind of insane. And so I don't like the way that they're going with game balance. I kind of actually wish I added something else for like interest or something like that, because all these flashy models brought interest to the game, and they're like, I want to play this with this Archon and blah blah blah. But game balance, it definitely seems like it slid the wrong direction. So I'm gonna give this one a D. I really feel they didn't go in the right direction with this. I mean, Warmachine's always been kind of a game of like, hey, if everybody has a bazooka, nobody's overpowered. But man, they kind of went the wrong ways with some of these things. And like, the sad thing is that you can look at this and like, the Archons could have been 10 points. The Archons could still done exactly what they do, but to be right pointed so that they're not hurting the infantry. All the things they're putting out could just be not anti-infantry. They could be actually like interesting things or anti-infernals to balance the game. But they didn't do that. They're just like, you know what? Screw infantry. And while we're on the subject, screw infantry. Like, okay, if that's what you want. So there you have it. I kind of hope that their balance for this going forward is doing scenarios where there's like more things that support infantry, but there you go. So there's game balance. I'm giving it a D. You might argue with me, and you're free to. Put it down in the comments. Now, let's move on to the next topic, which is going to be Privateer Press content. This is the content they're putting out, whether it's a CID release, a live stream, whatever it is. This is their interaction with us. And the reason why this is important is because we get motivated to play this hobby when you give us motivation to play this hobby. And so if you're doing things with us and providing content that is saying like, woo, exciting, we get excited and we play the game. And I think this is a weird one because start of the year, amazing, right? We had our weekly dev chats every single week. I would literally take my lunch late so I could actually be tuning in to this. And like sometimes people would be like, can I schedule a meeting for this time? No, reschedule it. I got to listen to this dev talk. I would love listening to Hungerford and whatever other people he had on there. We'll talk about those other people in a second. And that was fantastic. All the henchhold stuff, the CIDs, really, really good stuff. And then it stopped. And it stopped probably for a couple of reasons. And part of that was people leaving. Now, I don't want that to work into the formula of grades because the product of Warmachine is separate from who is working from the company, right? Like whether you hired or fired somebody in McDonald's doesn't affect whether I like the chicken nuggets or not. So I want to keep that separate. However, it is important to state that some people left. It's not some of the people that left last year. Again, we're talking about 2020, but we lost people like Jeff Olson. We lost people like Oz this year. And what do you know? The people in those dev talks were those people. And so the fact that all of a sudden that stopped, I mean, you got to say, like, for one part, there's the pandemic, so maybe that's why they stopped doing these things. But also, the people that they were doing it with were also gone. Now, something else that PP did late in the year is they decided to take over the general Warmachine Facebook page. Really weird. I still don't understand this business decision to try and do this, but they did this and they made it so that Lauren will be the new front face of Warmachine, which is good, right? Having someone that's going to be in that role, in that front face, and by the way, that's because another Jeff left who was in that role. However, that hasn't really gone anywhere. I kind of really thought that, okay, like Lauren's in. The weekly videos will be back. Lauren's in. She's going to be like every week or almost every day putting things in there, like leading the things like point a day. Hey, let's paint this. Hey, let's talk about this. Like random. I'm literally going to reach back and I'm going to break something. Drunk Malorian is grabbing a model. It's going to break. Okay, random model. Pistol Wraith. We're going to talk about today, and we're going to say what are all the good things about the Pistol Wraith, the bad things about the Pistol Wraith, and how we can actually fix it. Like that is literally free content. Whether you're doing a stream or a Facebook post, these things are free content as far as PP goes, other than the time of their employees, and they're not doing it. Now, there is the COVID going on, and I do have to give them that, but at the same time, other people are doing videos from home. You could, things like, Zoom exists, Discord exists, you can do this stuff. And so, as great as the start of the year was, with all of the weekly dev chats and the henchhold scrolls, oh my god, so great, then it died. And I almost kind of felt like there has to be something else. There has to be something else. I don't know whether it's just like Hungerford isn't interested or whatever it is, but I kind of feel like this is such an easy win. The fact that they're not going for it means that there's something else happening in the background that's holding them back. Like maybe the IT person they normally use got COVID or is depressed and doesn't want to. I don't know what it is, but this is so easy. And we're going to talk about the future of Warmachine later, but the fact that we got to this and it died is extremely bad. So I'm going to give this a passing grade. I got to say the start of this year was great, but I'm going to go with this one like a C minus, because this could have really, and for free, been busy or better. Lauren, I want to know more about Lauren. I know that she's been on some live streams before, but man, when I saw that she was now the new face of like the interaction with the community and she was going to be leading that on the general group, I thought I was going to be seeing her all the time. You know, like we're going to be best buds. I'm going to be chatting with her, but there's been like silence. She's more of like a moderator. It's not what I wanted. So a C minus is where I'm landing for this. Whew. I should have eaten something today. All right, fan content. And the first thing we have to say is that we lost Chain Attack. And that hurts. That hurts a lot. Chain Attack is what got me into this game to be good. You know, when I got into this game, I was like, you know what? This game is about knowledge. Is there anyone out there that's really saying every single week, let's break down a caster and tell you everything? And that was Chain Attack. Chain Attack is the reason Privateer Press and Warmachine is in the space it is in now. And the fact that we lost Chain Attack is a monumental loss that is going to be extremely difficult to replace. Hold up a glass to Chain Attack, because this is like losing a testicle. All right. That being said, that's what really, really hurt. That's the big thing that we lost in 2020. What did we gain? We gained line of sight. Line of sight is amazing. They've done so well. They are the new Chain Attack. And if you know how much I love Chain Attack, you can realize how good that grade I'm giving them is worth to them. And my camera, of course, in my one take video is going to die. I'm going to stop this and start this right again. And back again. So really, I mean, line of sight, they are, I have to say, the saving grace of 2020. They came into this saying, we are going to be doing a podcast every single week. And they did that and more. They came up with Brawl Machine. They released Brawl Machine. If you've been watching any of my videos talking about Brawl Machine, you know I love it. It is such a great idea, and it is exactly what we need right now. But they are giving weekly articles, like more than once a week articles. You know, I have taken, like, you can see like a little gauge that sees how much effort you put in. Me as like almost 40 dad, I took my effort gauge and went, and it's at the bottom. Line of Sight is putting in so much effort. I know they have a Patreon and it's really a tip jar. You should really think about it. If you are not, you're a person where you have some extra cash and you're like, hey, I didn't buy something this week because COVID, you might want to throw it at Line of Sight, because they are literally the lifeblood of the community right now. Now, that being said, there's other people, but having someone like that in 2020 that's like, we're going to put out guaranteed a podcast every single week, plus other content, plus develop Brawl Machine. Holy crow. Like, you know, like Privateer Press should be sending them a paycheck. Absolutely, right? If I see like who's really the best staffer at Warmachine, you know, at Privateer Press, there's like Hungerford, and then right below Hungerford is Line of Sight. You know, like they have done so much for this hobby and basically for free. They are amazing, but they're not the only ones, right? A lot of people have also come up and done a lot of work during this pandemic times. You would think that during these times, content would die, right? Because if you're not doing tournaments, if you're not doing games, content will die. But there are people out there who refuse to die. So for general content, the golden star at the top, I got to put in Line of Sight. Line of Sight is the new Chain Attack, and we need to support these people. Past this, who else do we have? Well, if we're talking about normal things like battle reports, we can be talking about things like Big Top Gaming. They are the new, advanced maneuvers. They are the new people for YouTube that if you want to be seeing this on YouTube, they are the people to go to. There are other people that have also jumped in, and you're all awesome. And I got to say that I always do in my videos like random links to other videos, and I make sure to get yours in there. But I mean, like Big Top Gaming, you can't deny they're at the top. For blogs, Luck God, hey, Tom, my buddy, you are in there. You are the one that's in there. And even though you're busy with university and everything else, you're making these things happen. That's fantastic. And you know what? I really, really want to stress that me as Malorian wants to support every single content creator out there. If you make blogs, if you make YouTube videos, if you make podcasts, I want to support you. Come to my channel, Malorian on Facebook, and feel free to post it on there. Or be like, hey, Malorian, I want more notice. Can you support me? And I'll not only share you on my group, but I'll share you on General Warmachine until I get banned. My number one priority is to make Warmachine strive, and if you are doing the work to make the content, I will do the work to support you. I have the easy job. I know how it is. You making battle reports or blogs or whatever it is, I know how much effort it is. So for me to share that is nothing. So please come to me and I'll share that. But I gotta say, for 2020, the gold stars go to Line of Sight for just like everything. For YouTube, it goes to Big Top Gaming. And then to blogs, it's got to be to Luck God. And then finally, for just like extra content, it's got to go to Field of Fire. If you don't know Emmanuel in Field of Fire, Emmanuel is me but better. If you took a Malorian and you're like, what's a Malorian that was actually like good at what he does and really has a connection with PP and really connects with others to move things forward? That's Emmanuel in Field of Fire. So whether you're looking at our Riot Quest radio stream or whatever, that's the type of stuff we need to have supported. And that's the type of thing we have to move forward. Again, I should have had lunch and or breakfast today, but I love all you guys. All right. We have talked about story, models, new rules, game balance, PP content, fan content. Let's talk about the future. Oh boy. Now, if I was a regular Malorian, I'd walk in here and I would say, hey man, the future looks amazing. We are going to get to the future, and 2021, whoa, we have set ourselves up for success. That's not the case. Warmachine's in trouble. I gotta tell you, it's in very big, very, very big trouble. It is not because of the rules. It is not because of privateer press. It is because a pandemic is ripping up this planet, and anyone who wants to play a game with other people cannot do so. And that's a problem. That's a really big problem. And I gotta say that originally I had hoped that, vaccines are coming out. They're going to start in Q4. They're going to be starting to really be widely done in Q1. And by Q2, things will be back to normal. That's not the case. It's not the case at all. Glasses up for people with bad future views. All right, so here's the future of Warmachine going into 2021. And I gotta say that when I start Season 2, Video 1 will not be, will Warmachine die in 2021? Because people freak out and they don't listen to the first minute of the video, and then that's the biggest video I have. Instead, I'm going to be talking about what is the future of Warmachine in 2021, but this is going to be your look ahead. Obviously, I'm working with a month of not knowing what's going to happen in December, but I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in December. Nothing. It's going to be really bad. And so there's no tournaments, there's no conventions. You are not going to go to your gaming store because you're a responsible adult. And Warmachine's going to be in a really bad spot. But at the end of the day, Warmachine is a hobby, and keeping people alive is a moral responsibility. So that being said, and as I step off my soapbox, what that really means is that in 2021, if I step off the doom and gloom, is that we really need to stress the options we have. You know, if we have a sphere of influence and there's only so many things we can actually put some effort into, it doesn't make sense to complain and be like, boy, it'd be really good if we had this convention. Boy, it'd be really good if this, because those are not going to happen. What can we actually put effort into? Well, what we can actually put effort into is what's available. And what is available is going to be Brawl Machine, and it's going to be War Table. Because whether you like it or not, conventions are not happening. Conventions are not happening, and I would say conventions are not going to happen for another year. I'm going to pause for effect and let you know that the soonest I expect a full convention with 50 plus players is in Q4. And I will put my name to that. If a convention happens sooner and there's 50 plus players, literally post up and let me know it happened, and I will make whatever video you want. If your video is all the embarrassing things Malorian has done in his life, I will post that. It's not going to happen. We are a long way off till vaccines and when we will see normalcy. And for a game where we want to go to stores and tournaments and play, this is bad. But there's not much we can do about that. So what we can do about that is embrace what we have. And what we have is War Table and Brawl Machine and whatever Privateer Press gives us. So Privateer Press, listen up. You need to embrace this too. You need to realize that 2021 will not be a regular year. In the existence of your game, you have never seen a year like this. You need to embrace War Table. You need to embrace Brawl Machine. If Brawl Machine is not just a way to bring in new players, Brawl Machine is a way to make War Table a little bit more accessible to everybody. I want to see in 2021 a link on your site to War Table. I want to see in 2021 a link on your site to Brawl Machine. If you are serious about keeping this game going forward, do what you need to do. Help me help you. I am a drunk Canadian in a basement hiding from a virus. That's what I am. So I have no control over this. I can do YouTube videos, but you have all the effects and all the abilities to make this happen. Please, Hungerford, message me and I will do whatever I can. If I have to send you nudes, Malorian will send you nudes, but make these things happen. Otherwise, that's it. I'm really hopeful. Otherwise, January, the first week of January, season 2 of Malorian Weekly will be taking off again. We are going to be full strong on this. I believe Warmachine is still going to be something that exists because, hey, look what? When you get out of the pandemic and people can be spending time together, they'll be wanting to be doing hobbies. And things like Warmachine is what I want them to be doing. I'll be here wanting to support you. Please give me a way to support you. That's all I'm going to say. So I guess I have to give some gradings to these things. So fan content in 2021, we lost Chain Attack, but we got some other great ones. I'm going to give that a B. For the future, I'm going to give it a C. It's not a D. We're not dead, but we're in trouble. It's a C, C minus. this is me being real. I want to come here and be like, 2021 is going to be amazing. It's not. It's going to suck. It's going to suck into Q4. And then in my final video of Q4, I'm going to tell you how great 2022 is going to be. But that's how 2021 is going to be. I tell you. And I wish I could tell you something different. That's my video. If you have any other thoughts on this or any other gradings, please post it down below. I wish this was a better year, but COVID sucks. Privateer, you're awesome. Hungerford, you're awesome. In other words, otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.